All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos, and one more Chag Sameach. It is Friday night, and we are, believe it or not, on the cusp of the 8th day of Pesach. I am in rare form. I am, they invented a word, hangry, right? Because I don't eat kidney oat during Passover, so all of my soy, all of my beans, all of the stuff that I normally eat during the week as a vegetarian, they go by the wayside. And so lots of fresh fruit, lots of fresh vegetables, not a problem there, lots of salads, but then again, also a ton of matzah. So, but luckily I like matzah. So, but we are on the 8th day. This is the beginning of the 8th day of the festival. And it's also Shabbat, which is even better, right? So we have Shabbat and the festival. Because it is a festival and we are literally in the midst of the festival, Kabbalat Shabbat is really short tonight. The rabbis say that the festival, the joy of the festival should have already prepared us to ease our way into Shabbat. And so we do have a little bit of Kabbalat Shabbat. The rabbis do like the mystical aspect of it. And so in our Sidurim this evening, we're using one of the homemade ones because the Sidur that we have for the regular weeks doesn't include the festivals. So that's the PDF for tonight. And we're going to be on page 23, and we're going to begin with Psalm 92. And I'll tell you what, let's read it responsively first, and then we'll go over to the Hebrew for Tzaddik Katamar. A song for Shabbat. It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God.
To affirm your love each morning and your faithfulness each night. To the music of the lute and the melody of the harp.
Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation.
How vast your works and ways,
The thoughtless cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot fathom this.
the wicked may flourish up like grass, but their good is sealed, for you are supreme forever.
Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish. All the wicked shall crumble.
But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed with fire oil. I have seen the downfall of my foes. I have heard the despair of my attackers.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God.
They shall bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant to proclaim the Lord is just. There is no spot.
Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach Ke'erez Balvanon Yiskeh Shetulim Beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yavrichu Odenu Leseva Deshenim Bera'ananim Yihiyu Lehagi Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Havlatabo. We turn to page 24 for Psalm 93. Adonai Malach Yeut Lavesh. Edo Techanim Lumo Lavecha Nava Kodesh. Adonai Liorech Yamim. Mourner's Kaddish, middle of page 24. Yitkadal V'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. V'Yalmad Yivrach Hiruteh. V'Yamlik Malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayeh d'chol Beit Yisrael v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach l'olam l'omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei v'yishrach v'richu. Le'ela v'yinkol v'yachashav v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata, Damiram v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Page 28, we'll begin Aravit with Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vahed. And on page 28, let's read the paragraph in English. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe. Your word bringing the evening dusk. You open with wisdom the gates of dawn, desiring the day with wondrous skill. Set out the succession of seasons and arrange the stars in the sky according to your will. Adonai Tzvaot, you create day and night, whirling away light from darkness and darkness away from light. Eternal God, your sovereignty shall forever embrace us. Praised are you, Adonai, for each evening's dusk. Uma'avir yom u'bein laila, uma'avdil bein yom u'bein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv agavim. Page 29. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, u'kim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shochbeinu u'vkumeinu, Nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, u'bahem nege yomam v'layla, Yomam v'layla, ve'ahavat techaltosim mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom ha'levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'vlechtecha b'derech, u'b'shoftecha u'vkumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chtaftam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha. And the third paragraph of the Shema on 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, v'amarta lehem, v'asu lehem tzitzit, al kanfei v'gdehem ledorotam, v'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf petil techelet, v'chaya lechem letzitzit, Uritem oto, uschartem et o mitzvot Adonai, va'asitem otam, ve'lo tatuhu, acharei levachem, v'acharei nechem, asher tem zonim, achareihem. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. And let's read responsively in the middle of page 31. You are my witnesses, says God. When you are my witnesses, I am Adonai. God is the first, God is the last. There is no God but Adonai. Testify for me, says Adonai, in your love for me. Teach your children, embracing the Torah now and forever. Umalchuto v'ratzo kiblu aleihem, Moshe v'nei Yisrael achanu shira, b'simcha rabah v'yamru kulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nohora tehilot osef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, Zeli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'ne'emar yifad Adonai et Yaakov, u'ga'alo mi'ad chazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Top of page 33, Hashkivenu, the first, I think in this version it's the first line, and then after that we'll turn the page and we'll read the English. But the top of page 33. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. And we turn the page to 33 and let's read responsibly. Let's read responsibly. Protect us with your gift of peace by helping us to overcome temptation. Shelter us in your embrace of peace when we are caught by conflict or desire. Cherish our fragmented lives. Make our lives whole again through integrity. Protect us from ourselves when we falter. Help us to conquer the enemy within. Top of page 34, Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו עולם. וידבר משה את מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיא. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קדושה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה בשירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דם מהירה בעלמא ויאמרו amen. All right, we are at the Amidah, and on page 41b in our Sidurim for tonight, we're going to chant this together, and then we're going to go silently. And you can read along and finish in English, you could finish in Hebrew, or you could offer up your own prayers. And of course, the parentheses, the words of the parentheses are for Shabbat, so we're going to add those. And it is still, until tomorrow night, the festival of Matzot. Adonai sifatai tikach u'viyaki tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tikach u'viyaki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshia U'Magin. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Abraham, Yezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, V'chayei metim atah lehoshia. Mashi paruach u'morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, V'chayei metim b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofeh oholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekahayeh emunato l'shenei afar, michamocha Givurot, Umidom Helah, Melech Mevit, Umechahayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata l'chayot metim, Baruch ata Adonai, Mechayeh hametim. Still completing your Amidah, please complete it at your own pace. We're going to continue on page 42, reading pretty much most of the page. On page 42, we're going to begin with Lovingly Adonai our God. And so we'll read together. Lovingly Adonai our God, you have given us Shabbat for rest, festivals for joy, and holidays for happiness. Among them, this Shabbat and this festival of Matzot, season of our liberation, a day of sacred assembly, recalling the Exodus from Egypt. Our God and God of our ancestors, show us your care and concern. Remember our ancestors, recall your anointed, descendant from David your servant. Protect Jerusalem, your holy city, and exalt all your people, Israel, with life and well-being, contentment and peace on this festival of Matzot. Grant us life and blessing, and remember us for good. Recall your promise of mercy and redemption. Be merciful to us and save us, for we place our hope in you, loving and merciful God. And if we turn to page 43, and it's going to be the fourth paragraph down or the third paragraph up, depending on where you're looking on the page. A little bit of hoda'ah, a little bit of thanksgiving, and a lot to be thankful for this week of Pesach. My mom and Cliff were here for most of the festival. They came down last week and stayed through Tuesday morning, and so had Seder with them, and it surprised me. They weren't going to come. They said they weren't going to come, and then they said, surprise, we're going to come. And so very, very grateful for that. And so again, it doesn't have to be a big ticket item. It could be anything that you're grateful for on this Shabbat and this holiday. So let's read together. We proclaim you are Adonai, our God, and God of our ancestors throughout all time. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. We thank you and praise you for our lives that are in your hand, for our souls that are in your charge, for your miracles that daily attend us, and for your wonders and gifts that accompany us evening, morning, and noon. You are good, your mercy everlasting, You are compassionate, your kindness never ending. We have always placed our hope in you. Oh, David just kept going. David's in, the Ruach, the Spirit moved David, right? So let's finish the page. For all these blessings, we shall ever praise and exalt you. May every creature thank you and praise you faithfully, God of our deliverance and our help. Praised are you, Adonai, the essence of goodness, worthy of acclaim. And the top of page 44 will close out with Shalom Rav. And there are some extra words in this version of Shalom Rav. There are a couple of different versions that float around. So for ours, it's Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim. So you'll go to the last word. So you'll skip Vial Kol Yoshvei Tevel. People like to put that particular phrase in all sorts of places. They put it in Shalom Rav, they put it in the Kaddish. It's all over the place. But just ignore Baal Kol Yoshvei Tevel, and it sings out the way it normally does. Shalom Rahav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'b'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rahav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. And we have the Mishnah Berurah on page 144. If there are people who you know that need some special healing on this festival and Shabbat evening, please keep them close to your hearts and in your thoughts. Mishnah Berurah Avotenu Abraham Yitzhak Yaakov Sarivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yivarech V'Rapeh Et Kol HaCholim B'Kehila Kedusha Hazot HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem L'Chazikam L'Rachotam V'Yishlach Lahem Mehevra Refuah Shlema Min HaShemayim Refuah HaNefesh Refuah HaGuf B'Tov Shar Cholei Yisrael Shabbat hi v'yom tov hu milizot u'prat kova lavo hashta b'agala b'zman kariv v'nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and bring blessing and healing to all who suffer illness within our congregational family. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and vigor, granting them physical and spiritual well-being, together with all others who are ill. And let us all say, Amen. Amen. All right, 148 at the top, the prayer for our congregation. Judy, please.
May the blessings of heaven, kindness and compassion, long life, ample sustenance, well-being, and healthy children devoted to Torah be granted to all members of this congregation. May the Sovereign of the universe bless you, adding to your days and your years. May you be spared all distress and disease. May our protector in heaven be your help at all times. And let us say,
Amen. Maury, how about the prayer for our country, please?
A prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish the hatred and bigotry and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. We turn the page to 149. In the Hebrew, the prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael B'Golo, Barvech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Smichat Ge'ulatenu, Hagein Aleha V'Yafrach Chasdecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Oracha V'Amitecha L'Rasheha, Sareha B'Yoetzeha, V'Taknein Be'etzah Tova Milfanecha, Chazek et Yidei Beginei Eretz Kodshenu, V'Hanchilein Eloheinu Yeshua, V'Ateret Nitzachon Ta'atreim, V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha, V'Nomar Amen. David, in the English, please.
Avinu Sheba Shamayim, Rock and Redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel with its promise of redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace, and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone who read. All right, friends. Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos, and Chag Sameach. So this week's Torah portion, like last week, is a repeat. It is out of Devarim. It's out of the book of Deuteronomy, the very last book of the Torah, and it's out of Parashat Re'eh. And basically, it's because this is a holiday, it reminds us of the periodic duties, right? Things that we don't do all the time, but we have to do throughout the year. So, for example, it reminds us about our tithes. Now, we hear about tithing a lot in the Christian community, 10% of your income, but in the Torah, tithing was part of doing business as a Jew. You gave to the upkeep of the community, either in produce, right? If you lived close enough to, in the very end in Jerusalem, that you could take your stuff, your produce from where you live to Jerusalem, you could take it there and sell it there and give the money there. Or you could sell your produce at home and then take the money and spend it in Jerusalem. This week, we get reminding that we have to take care of the Levite, right? This is the person who is the assistant to the Kohen, right? He's the one that washes the hands and the feet of the Kohen, helps the Kohen Gadol get dressed in his finery. And the reason we have to care for the Levite is that the Levites, as part of Israel, did not get an ancestral holding in the land of Israel. All of the other tribes got them, but the Levites didn't, right? And that's the one tribe that, and because they were involved with the tabernacle and the temple, it was understood that they would get taken care of by the community for their service. And along with the Levite, we're remembered to take care of the ger, the yatom, and the almanah, right? The idea of the stranger, which, I've been thinking a lot about what it means in the Torah when we talk about the ger and what it means to be the stranger. I think a better way of, I mean, the word ger literally does mean stranger, right? I mean, if you open up a dictionary and look up the word ger, it's going to say stranger. But I'm going to suggest that when we hear it in the Torah, the ger is the immigrant, the person who is running away. He or she is leaving someplace and coming to us, to our community. And so that's really, I think, what the Torah meant when they were talking about the ger, because there is no word for immigrant in biblical Hebrew. Basically, it's ger toshav. It's the stranger who lives among you, is known as the immigrant. And the yatom is the orphan, and the almanah is the widow. These are the people who are often forgotten by society. So the Torah says you've got to take care of them. And this leads us into laws regarding that how to take care of people who need. Right? The Torah stresses that even though there's going to be people who are poor among us, meaning there's always going to be people who have more than someone else, there's no permanent underclass. There's no permanent class of poor people that the Torah wants to have develop. They don't want that. They understand that people come upon hard times. We help them through that, and we get them moving forward. The Torah does not envision a permanent underclass. They want everybody to be, they want people to be able to rise out of poverty, is basically what the Torah's message is. And sometimes society needs to give them a helping hand. And so we move into those laws. Again, during Passover, we open our door and say, all who are hungry, come and eat. And I've been doing that my entire life, and I keep waiting for somebody to come in. Nobody comes in. But I'm just hoping that someday somebody will know there's a Seder here. I'm hungry. I'm going to try. I heard that when they open the door, they have to invite you in. And actually we do. But I've not had that happen yet. But pardon?
We've had it.
Well, if people ever show up at my door for a Seder, they will get fed, and they'll get to take leftovers home. Then we have this idea of the remission of debts. The Torah says every 7 years, all debts are forgiven. And that's so, again, that people don't find themselves in a perpetual state of poverty. And this fits in because if you are needy, the Torah says, don't shut your hands to the needy. Don't, right? The Torah wants you to extend your hand open to help people, not a fist, right? You open it. And the reason that they bring this in during Pesach, again, it's the idea that we were strangers. We were immigrants. We were the ones who had nothing. And we can't forget that. But even during the 7th year, the Torah says, you still have to lend, or even during the 6th year, I'm sorry, because the 7th year, the debt would be forgiven. Even during the 6th year, you still have to lend to somebody who is needy, somebody who is in poverty, and they come to you and they say, look, I need a little bit of money. I'll pay you back. And you know that they're not going to pay you back by the 7th year. We still have to help them out. And then we get an interesting discussion about Hebrew slaves, right? There were 2 types of slaves in the Torah. There's the Eved Kana'ani. There's the Canaanite slave who basically is indentured to you forever. But the Hebrew slaves, they serve 6 years and then they are freed in the 7th. And they're not freed empty-handed. They go out with produce. They go out with clothes. They go out with money to help them on their new life. And it's the refrain is, remember that you were slaves and you weren't freed by every 6 years. You were there 434 years and no one freed you. And if the slave wants to stay, he can. And the ritual is you take him to the front door, you pull his ear, you strike it through with an awl, and he never leaves. And then the last of this week's special reading is the firstborn are dedicated to God, consecrated to God, all the male firstlings, all the males of your flocks, and even your firstborn. But if you get, there are rituals to get firstborns out of being consecrated to God. And then we get the review of the 3 pilgrimage festivals, the 3 major festivals mentioned in the Torah: Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And so it's a bit of a long Torah reading this week, almost 2 full chapters, and it's filled with lots of interesting things. And so this is your Torah portion in a nutshell for this festival and Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, and Chag Sameach. All right, so there were 2 things that were going around in the Jewish interwebs this week. There was a lot of upset about Christians having seders, not attending seders, but having their own seders. And there were a lot of people, and there was a lot written, and temperatures and tempers overboiled. And but that wasn't the interesting thing for me, because people can do what they want. But if you read the New York Times, you know it is Passover, because every year the New York Times seems to be able to publish an article in which there is somebody either who is Jewish or Jewish adjacent complaining about Passover and Judaism. Last year, the article was written by a non-identifying Jew, right? Her father was Jewish, her mother wasn't. She was raised in a nominally Jewish family, but she does not identify as a Jew at all. But she wrote an article, and the Times published it, in which she waxed poetic about why she won't celebrate Passover with her children because Passover is bad. Kind of like somebody asking me to write an article about what I don't like about Easter. Right? I mean, but the New York Times isn't going to do that, right? And now this year, the article was written by an ex-Chassid, somebody who grew up in Monsey, New York. And if you've ever been to Monsey, New York, it's like stepping back into the shtetl. Lots of Jews with beards and payas, lots of black kapotas, long black frock coats, women with shaitels and with snoods, and women with thick stockings. I mean, it's like stepping back into the world of Tevye. But he also is a best-selling author. His name is Shalom Auslander. And a number of years ago, he made, a minor splash in the literary world when he published his somewhat autobiographical book, A Foreskin's Lament, in which he talked about his life growing up in Monsey and the reason he's no longer there. He's one of a growing number of Jews who leave the ultra-Orthodox enclaves of Monsey, of Williamsburg, of Borough Park, and go out into the real world, often abandoning Judaism and having a serious axe to grind with it. And so that's this year's article. He says in his article that we should kill God, right? Get rid of the God that we worship, because as a child, he had a bad experience growing up in a religious community. And his article was entitled, "Let's Pass Over God." Now, people are entitled to their opinions, but Auslander's article and its publication in such a prominent newspaper is a little bit problematic, because Auslander presents a very childlike understanding of God, right? God is this big, scary man who will punish you if you turn on a light on Shabbat, if you eat dairy too soon after eating meat. He never outgrew that from his days in yeshiva. Now, granted, his days in yeshiva were horrible. I've read his book. I know people who have also, not Auslander himself, but I've known other ex-Hasids, and the stories they tell me, curl my beard. It's not a fun life for them in many ways. But as an adult, he should be able to present a more nuanced view of God and Judaism. He doesn't like the God of Judaism. He could say, okay, if I don't like the God of Judaism, but it's my opinion. Right? It's my opinion. It's not the opinion of all the other Jews that you're going to meet. So when I'm writing this, it's my opinion. And if you think that all Jews feel this way. I don't speak for all Jews. Unfortunately, he doesn't say that in his article. He makes his article sound like we all believe this, right? And some of the things that he puts in his article, right? He presents vignettes of his yeshiva days. Children cheering when the rabbi recounts the story of Egypt and the plagues, right? So the little Jewish kids are cheering the fact that Pharaoh and the Egyptians get punished. But he presents it like we're sitting at our Seder doing the exact same thing. And we're not. He implies that most Jews feel that this is okay, right? That we cheer when our enemies get punished. Many of us don't. Nobody in this room with me right now, and I doubt that anybody online really cheers when we recount the plagues on Egypt. He said that, and this is probably a little bit of creativity on his part. He said that I asked the Rebbe, did all the Egyptians suffer? And weren't there any Egyptians who might have helped us? And if they did help us, why were they punished? And of course, the rabbi gave him some pat answer. And so Auslander at age 8 is now, see, this is bad, right? It's not. But if you've read his article, I'm sure you'll agree with what I'm saying. He basically presents an abusive, emotionally absent God. And I don't know many rabbis, at least outside the Hasidic world, who preach that. I certainly don't. I certainly don't say that we should cheer when our enemies get punished. I don't cheer when we recount the story of the plagues. But the problem for me, and this is my opinion on the article, is that Auslander offers no solution. He offers no replacement. He says, this God is bad. We have to get rid of this God, and by extension, get rid of Judaism. Okay, I have a problem with the God that's presented in the Torah sometimes. A God that says, you know what, I'm going to give you this land. It's the land of Canaan. Lots of people are living in there. You're going to have to go and wipe them out. But it's your land. A little bit of a problem with that. Also punishing people for all sorts of things. But you know what? We are B'nai Yisrael. And Yisrael means to struggle with God. Yes, there are problems with how God is presented in the Torah. God is not always a nice God. But we struggle with those, and we overcome those. Nobody here believes literally in the God of the Torah or the rest of the Bible. We believe in God, but not necessarily this angry God, this upset God that we have to constantly stroke his ego. But Auslander feels that we all do, and therefore we don't need this God. Auslander doesn't have to believe in God. He doesn't have to believe in this God. And he doesn't have to speak, though, for the rest of us. And the New York Times should know better, right? I didn't see on Easter Sunday an op-ed written about Easter with the same tone as Auslander's. But this is the second, if not the third year, they did it during Pesach. I'm just wondering what their message is. I know Auslander's. I'm just a little worried about what the New York Times' message is as well. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. The article's online if you're interested. It's a short article. His book's better. All right, Kiddush for festivals and for Shabbat. So,
You never lit the candles.
oh, that's probably because the usual candlelighters weren't here. And I doubt that the men knew the bracha.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Joking. I'm joking. It just totally slipped.
The book.
Oh, there you go. David has the secret. David has the secret. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'am, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו, ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, שבתות ומנחה, ומועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון, ואת יום השבת הזה, ואת יום חג המצות. אז זה זמן חירותנו באהבה, מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת מועדי קודשך, באהבה וברצון, בשמחה ובששון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת בישראל והזמנים. If we turn the page in our Sidurim, we will be at the counting of the Omer. And we started counting the Omer on the second night of Pesach. And so this being the 8th night, last night was the 6th night of the Omer. And the bracha is on page 55. הנני מוכן ומזומן לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת העומר, כמו שכתוב בתורה, וספרתם לכם למחרת השבת מיום הביאכם את עומר התנופה. 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה עד ממחרת השבת, השביעית תספרו 50 יום. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer as it is ordained in the Torah. You shall count from the eve of the second day of Pesach, when an omer of grain is to be brought as an offering, 7 complete weeks. The day after the 7th week of your counting will make 50 days. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al sirat ha'omer. Hayom shiva yamim shehem shavua echad la'omer. Today is the 7th day of the counting of the Omer, making exactly 1 week of the Omer. Page 51 in your Sidurim for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'ateish gedula liotzer breshit, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו למשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושיב את קברו בשמיים במעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו. אמת מלכנו אפסו לשו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחתינו. וכתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר Adonai, Lamelech al kol haaretz, Vayom hahu, Vayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo echad. We are continuing to observe Shloshim for Marjorie Shradsky-Kakara. And this week we observed the following yard sites. Matilda Gold, relative of Dorothy Gold Grow. Leah Rose Lerner, Ike's mother. Sarah Ossoff Supovitz, Lynn Mayer's paternal grandmother. John Albert Ambergy, brother of Judy Lundy. Isidore Casson, Martin Casson's grandfather. Harold Lee Kincaid Jr., brother of Sam, son of Harold Sr. and Bernice. Bruce Shrinsky, Sherry Solochek's youngest brother. Gisela Island, Ed Island's mother. Eleanor Friedman, Norman's wife, Jeff's mother. Jack Poland, relative of Ron. Helen Bernstein, relative of Manny Berinsky. Albert Kaplan, Pauline's uncle. Anna Levinson, Frida Kagan's mother. Norman Dolan, Ben's husband. Max Stern, Diane Shadows' paternal grandfather. Hedva Hess, wife of Theodore, mother of Alyssa, Nancy, Debbie, and Julius. Lillian G. Cohen, Marjorie Lerner's mother. Oscar Skoll, Barrett's father. Sylvia Spadell, Sally Fallon's mother. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us always, and may they all rest in peace. Mourner's Cottage in our Sidurim, page 54. Yitzkadal, Yitzkadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'alma, Divrach, Kirutei, V'alrik Malchutei, V'chayecho, V'yom Hecho, U'chaye, V'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman Kariv, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, V'orach, V'olam, L'nei Maya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalach, Shmei Kusha, Rihu, Ve'eva, Minkol, V'chata, V'shirata, Tushbachata, V'nechamata, V'amiram, V'alma, V'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shlama, Rabbah, Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom V'romah, U'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. All right, before we close out with our last song for this Erev Shabbat, a couple of announcements. Services tomorrow morning, 8th day of Passover, 8th and final day, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We will have Yizkor during that service. On the 8th day of Pesach, we will have Yizkor. Then on Sunday morning, David will be here with us at 9 o'clock for our Sunday morning minyan, and it's just a regular Sunday morning minyan after a week of festival. Any meetings this week, Judy? Not that I know of.
Just sell tickets.
I was getting right there. I was getting there. No meetings this week. No adult ed on Sunday. But on Monday night, we'll be back with our deep dive into Genesis. And Wednesday night, I believe, we'll be back with our Yiddish choir as well. But the big thing is get out there and sell your tickets for the raffle, which is, I thought it was in 2 weeks, but David this morning, no, it is next week, a week from Sunday, May 1st. May 1st. So sell those tickets and then come and join us for the raffle. It'll be a great time. It's going to be my first raffle. And I am excited. I am excited. And then, before the raffle, we'll be back for Shabbat services. Friday night, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning, which isn't Shabbat, but we'll be back for services. And it'll just be regular services for the most part. From now, Shavuot will have a special service, but that's Shavuot, a day and a half basically, and then it's the high holidays. So it's 6 months until the high holidays. So start your panic now. So we'll close out and we'll close out with Yigdal. I put Yigdal in here for some reason. I like Yigdal. Maybe that's why I put it in. Yigdal, based on Maimonides' commentary of the Mishnah, his 13 attributes of God. 53. Yigdal Elohim Chai V'yishtabach Nimsa V'yein El Mitziuto Echad V'yein Yachid Ki Yichudo Ne'elam V'gam Ein Sof Li'achduto Ein Lo Demut HaGuf V'yeino Guf Lo Na'aroch Elav Kedushato Kadmon L'chol Davar Asher Nivra Rishon V'yein Reshit L'Reshito Hino Adon Olam V'chol Notzar Yoreh Gedulato Malchuto Shefan Nevuato Netano Elan Segulato V'tifarto Lo kam Yisrael kemo she'od Navi u'mahabi et tebunato Torah temet natan le'ahamohel Al yad nevi'o neman beito Lo yachol Yifa'el v'lo yamir dato Li'od lahamim lezulato Sofer Yodea Sitareinu Mabit L'sof Davar B'kadmato Gomer L'Ish Chesed K'mihi Fahalo Notein D'Rashara Kirishato Yishlach Niketz Yamin Mishicheinu Liftot Mechake Ketz Yeshuato Meitim Yechayel, Perochasto, Baruch Ardei Ad, Shem Tehilato. Meitim Yechayel, Perochasto, Baruch Ardei Ad, Shem Tehilato. All right, friends, let's see. We got some people saying hello to us through the interwebs. And let us see this evening. Donna Wilson, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. What a gorgeous evening. Thank you, Donna. Same to you. And it is. There's Mom. Shabbat Shalom to all from Rabbi's Mom and Cliff. Thanks, Mom and Cliff. ML Glazer and Herman. Hope all had a good and meaningful Pesach. Thank you, ML and Herman. Hope you did too. We wish you all a good Shabbat and a week of peace. Thank you. And Mark Rosen, Shabbat Shalom, y'all. From Kentucky. That must be that Ashkenaz Kentucky lingo that I hear so much about. Well, Mark, thank you. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos. Chag Sameach. We'll see you all soon. And be careful out there.
Have a Sisson Passover.